Greetings, Commanders. My name is Beck, and today we have a unique episode of the Captain's Log because we're talking about what's going on in this month's current arc, Q Continuum Part 1. Now, the reason it's unique is because we have two special guests with us today, one you know and one you do not know. Joining with us today, we have Gabe, aka Echo, whichever one, we still don't know after a few years, and our friend Domen. So before we get further into anything, I would love for y'all to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about what you do. We're going to start with Gabe because we all know Gabe, but you're doing different things now.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name's Gabriel. I'm a associate product manager now on Star Trek Fleet Command. What that entails is I help with running the events and some of the live operations inside of Star Trek Fleet Command.
Woohoo!
Hey, I'm Doan. At Scopely, I work as a senior roadmap PM. Other than that, I'm a player of STFC. I've been playing the game ever since 2020. I'm a pretty huge Star Trek fan. Not the biggest nerd around, but I did grow up with it, so I guess that's something. I've been in the Star Trek team for slightly less than a year, kind of going on a year, and this is my first update, so just happy to be here, have the chance to go over the next update, show and tell our players what they can be excited for in the month to come.
Yeah. Domen, you mentioned this a little bit. You were playing the game before becoming a part of the team, so that's also a fun thing whenever you get to see and experience it on one side, and then you're now coming into something that's probably a little bit more of a passion project and getting to be a part of your first official arc.
Yeah, that part's been amazing. When I was joining Scopely, I was going through a bunch of rounds of interview and we were discussing which project I would join onto. And actually the first project that they wanted me to join at was actually Monopoly Go. And after that, when we started discussing things, I told them I've been playing the game, Star Trek, and after that, we just kind of shifted towards thinking about me joining this team, and that was basically a no-brainer for someone like me who kind of grew up with this.
We're really glad that you ended up on the Star Trek team and getting to work on specifically this arc because I have heard a rumor that you are a big fan of Q. When I think of Q, I think of just unexpected chaos, but it's not. The thing about Q is that everything is always thought out chaos. Like, it doesn't ever feel like it's just a random thing. His appearances feel random,
Right.
but there's always some reason, that something's happening. I don't know. You were talking about your memories of Q or your favorite Q or...
Yeah, the big first memory of Q that I have is from TNG. I know, obviously, he came around in TOS as well, but TNG is my big first memory. When he was on the ship talking with Picard, changing outfits every other second, that was just really cool and interesting, and I had no idea that a character like that existed at the time. And it's very exciting to be able to work on an update that is Q because of the fact that it gives us a lot of really cool creative liberties.
Yeah.
Because, Q, you expect the unexpected a lot of times. So that lets us kind of do, as long as it's something Q would do or his personality fits in with, we can kind of go along with it. And that's some things that we tried to do in this arc, at least through the event side of things. And it was really a lot of fun.
Yeah. I know, like, with this specific arc, like, you said it yourself, there's freedom because it's Q. To expect the unexpected, there's a little bit of chaos or a little bit of something or whatnot. Narratively speaking, what exactly is the setting here, Domen, for this arc? Like, what is the story, the underlying story for this month?
Just to kind of summarize, like, the entire theme of what we have in this arc is basically the Q Continuum and Elorians. So we're kind of taking that and trying to expand on it, tell a new story. Just like Gabe said, we have a lot of creative freedom to just do something funky and crazy, but also serious at the same time. And when you were kind of talking about the memories and how you experienced Q, for me, it was this episode where Q introduces Picard to the Borg, and this is the first introduction of the Borg ever showing up in TNG. And I remember the tension, the music, how much I was afraid of the Borg when I was like 10 years old. So that was awesome. And I think that episode kind of summarizes in a way what we're trying to go for here, with the exception that we're also trying to include a pinch of generations to it as well. So in terms of the general premise, I won't go too deep, but we have Q Junior, who basically goes on a quest to try and resurrect the Elorian species that were assimilated by the Borg. And this kind of leads to the Q Continuum stepping in, and ultimately the player needs to work with Q and also Dash, she's coming back, to try and make sure this doesn't happen. And we have a couple of little twists happening throughout this entire update. And then, of course, the story is going to continue in M73 and wrap up in that sense.
I'm really I'm looking forward to getting to experience the story a little bit more. You know, we're only a couple days in, and I think it's cool that we have not one, not two, but 3 Q officers.
Lots of Q.
There's a lot of Q. You know, I think that's kind of funny. Like, this is a very unique month because we have the freedom and liberty to just kind of do that. Before we were in this discussion, you were talking about French Marshal Q.
Yeah.
You know, and French Marshal Q is a part of the game officially.
Yeah.
Now, with also Mariachi Q and
Starfleet Q.
And Starfleet Q. Yeah. So it's fun at being able to see Q join the ranks and also just kind of switch things up in the game as we know it, right? This officer crew. Doan, you were talking before a little bit, but what is the official name for this specific crew?
Yeah, so the crew kind of fits under Interceptor Retaliation Squad. They're basically a crew that is specializing against fighting player interceptors. And it's kind of nice. It's kind of a fun premise because we have 3 Qs being introduced in the same update. So individually, these guys are going to be useful, but combined, they will just present a threat that you'll want to avoid whenever conditions are in their favor. And speaking of conditions, like I said before, this is a Interceptor Retaliation crew. So these guys are specialized against fighting player interceptors. So whenever you have an interceptor and you see a crew of Qs coming your way, that's the time to run away. And hopefully, like, this is where the space for any strategy is going to come and open up, and players are going to be able to just kind of, as they play through TC, as they engage with Arena, as they play KVK or just general PvP, this is going to allow them to find different ways of engaging with different ships, countering other strats, just stuff like that.
I think I'm going to call them the Q crew. Like, I think that's just going to be embedded in my brain. I've decided that is the new meta, and there's none else.
It's the Q Triforce.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I agree with Domen. I think that the crew brings a lot of really interesting strategies to the game, which I think is important because this is a 4X strategy game we're playing. If you think about the strike teams, for instance, it's all been about when on a specific ship. This is when going against a specific ship, which I think is interesting because obviously you're getting the morale from Q, which means like this will be good on an Explorer. I mean, Explorers are good against Interceptor's baseline, but that's not to say like what if you wanted to put this crew on an Interceptor and proc hull breach in a different way and still get the benefits that you're getting going against an Interceptor. It allows for a lot more Q-jitsu, so to speak,
of
how you can sort of coordinate going against other officers.
Speaking of officers, before we move on to one of the other areas, specifically, Gabe, you know, we're in week 1. How can players be looking forward to kind of getting their hands on officers or sourcing these officers?
There are a lot of different ways to get your hands on Q. And I don't want to sort of reveal all the secrets. You can check on the calendar and my famous quote. I'll get back to you on that. But no, there's going to be a lot of different ways to engage and get your hands on the variety of Q that is available this month.
The Q crew,
the Triforce of Q, however we want to call it.
This is a very Q answer of you. It's a wait and find out.
The content this month just is for a wide range of ops. You know, the Independent Archive starts at 16, Chaos Tech starts at 19. So we have 2 things that is applicable to a very wide array of players. And instead of giving sort of different experiences for each people inside of this month, I wanted to try and give a universal experience for everyone as best as I could. But knowing that players play the game differently, so I try to include different ways of scoring. Like, I don't feel like going and hitting Borg probes. Okay, well, we can go hit faction hostiles instead. Or if you're done with your Borg loop completely, like, you can go to the independent archives, claim your bundle, and that event's going to auto-complete. So going back to the original question of how to get your hands on Q, there's going to be a couple of different ways, most likely. And, you know, obviously the normal things, Battle Pass is going to be there. We have heroic SMSs. So people should expect the normal things with a few twists.
Some Q
Maybe
twists.
some Q twists.
I'm just going to add Q to everything that I'm saying, like any in between.
It's a Q twist. It's a Q crew. It's
yeah,
a Q month. It's a Q anniversary.
And I like that. It's not, but it is. It is today. Today it is.
The Q is helping us with the anniversary a little bit. I know we haven't dug too deep into that, and I don't want to take all of that stuff away from Domen, but, you know, there are some different things that we're going to be doing for the anniversary.
You were briefly mentioning a couple of the feature items, some of the content items that are happening here, and I kind of want to dive into those. The first one that you mentioned was the independent archives.
Yes.
For anyone that hasn't had a chance to experience that just yet, because, again, we're right at the beginning of this arc. Doan, like, what exactly is the independent archives? What is its purpose? What is its function? You know, why would players care about this building?
Yeah, so I may go on a tangent here, but let me start with just the problems that players have been facing when it comes to things that we're trying to address with the archives. In general, there's been three major problems that our players have kind of been dealing with for years now, a couple of years at least. And that's dealing with too many loops at the same time, too much grind on a per loop basis, and too much clicking through all the different menus. So I've heard like a number of reports where players would tell me that it would take them 30 minutes, if not more, a day to be able to go through every single freebie that they have to claim when they come back to the game on the next day. And we are kind of trying to tackle all of these three problems. So this is where the independent archives come in. It's basically, the way I look at it, it's an engagement feature that as you play the game and as you progress and achieve different milestones in the archives, it ends up providing you with significant buffs and quality of life for every included loop in this game. And the way it works is that after you've already unlocked the building, it's tied to a new building that we're introducing, you start unlocking different archives. Through this, you're then able to progress in these archives by meeting requirements, such as upgrading ship tiers. And then as you progress, you are unlocking different buffs that will expedite your progression with the ship. They will make you stronger in general, and ultimately they will allow you to master the loop. And then when you finally master a loop, you will be able to bring together all the different bundles tied to it from, let's say, the faction menu, from the refinery, from any other menu where you are claiming something tied to a loop on a daily basis, and merge them all together into one daily claim that will reward you with all the endpoint rewards that you're getting from that loop. So it basically wraps everything together. You master the loop and you kind of close it off. And then as a result, you get a daily claim all button that's going to claim all the rewards from every single loop that you have mastered, and just give it to you with one click. So going back to what I was just saying, we are addressing through the entire flow of the feature, we are addressing the problem of dealing with too many loops at the same time, too much grind on a per loop basis, and then also too much clicking. And then in summary, how it's going to work is the more you progress in the archive, the more buffs you will unlock, and the more buffs you will unlock, the faster you will progress. So ultimately, the faster you progress, the more loops you will master, and the more time will be saved having to deal with all the older loops currently included in the archives themselves.
I think it's really neat that there is now something in game that was specifically designed and engineered to confront players' pain points, in a sense. You know, it starts with how many tracks does it start with?
Five.
And I know that this has already been announced, but if players don't know, everybody gets the Botany Bay track for free.
Correct.
Which is a really, really cool way of being able to allow players to just at least engage with this, just to see just how much of a difference that this makes. I'm sure that you've been building things into your events for the month that are coordinated with the archives as well.
I was supposed to do that.
Oh, snap.
No,
You got time. You got time. We're in week 1, right?
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. A lot of those. So if we're going to talk about events a little bit, there's a couple of things that I wanted to try and do with my events. And so we have the big 2 things, obviously, are Chaos Tech and Independent Archives. So Independent Archives, there's an event every single day where it's like, hey, just go do the loops that are in the Independent Archives. So I'm sure that G3, G4, G5, G6 are all going to big sigh right now, but like, go kill Borg probes if your Vidar isn't maxed. Like, go do Monavine AFK farming. Go mine your Botany Bay data, right? Like, events that are going to reward you just for doing these activities. And then it's for Chaos Tech, like, hey, like, go see what's up with the new assimilated Eldorians, right? And you can sort of tackle that, and Q's asking you to do that to sort of distract Q Jr. while he looks for Q Jr., being like, no, that never happened. You don't have to save anybody. They never existed in the first place. And then there's a couple of other things. But the idea was, again, give everyone a universal experience where, like, I'm not high enough to do the Monavine. Great. There's hostile kill metrics in there. You can just go kill normal hostiles. I already finished my Monavine. Great. Claim it from the Independent Archives. That event auto completes. And so I tried to do the big thing that I like is having varieties of different ways of scoring in the same event. So it's like, I don't want to kill Borg. Great. You have an option. I don't want to kill the new hostile. Great. You have faction hostiles.
Yeah.
Now there's always a quicker way of doing the event versus the other way. There is a sort of correct way to do it where you're going to do it faster, but there are options for each players depending on, ops levels and what sort of activities they want to engage in.
Yeah, I know that you've got some stuff with Chaos Tech planned in everything that your overarching thing. I don't know how much we're revealing in this particular chat, but before we dive into more on the live operation side and what you've been working on with Chaos Tech, what is Chaos Tech, Domen?
Yeah, but first, just on the topic of options and decisions that players will be able to make during this update. I think this arc is doing a fairly good job of balancing out PvE with PvP. We've got some PvE content coming in as well as some PvP content, and we're kind of topping it all off with some quality of life improvements that I think just everyone is gonna appreciate, and kind of independent archives kind of fit into that as well. But to kind of move over to Chaos Tech, it's basically a gear system that you would see in any other game. I kind of look at it as a new type of ship equipment. So in terms of sheer presentation, it might be the most comparable with Forbidden Tech, but where the difference lies is mostly in function and how that affects your again, going back to decisions, how it affects your strategic in-game decisions. Its main buff is basically an equivalent of an officer ability. So a conditional ability that you can use in several different ways to complement your officer, crews, or ship functions, or to even complement Forbidden Tech at the end of the day. And the other 2 buffs that Chaos Tech is going to include basically consist of a more niche focus. But because they are targeting a niche, at the same time, they end up being that much more awesome, really. One other thing that we're trying to achieve with Chaos Tech is that they provide more power up front, but still have very good scaling. So that leveling these up still feels rewarding and just worth the effort of acquiring and progressing in. So with this in mind, Chaos Tech actually ends up complementing Forbidden Tech and your officer crews, basically allowing you to specialize your ship in different functions that you as a player decide to go for. So as far as direction goes, as far as introducing new Chaos Tech is concerned, we're trying to sustain a very healthy balance between PvP and PvE. But for update 72, there's going to be more emphasis on PvE. We will be introducing 3 PvE and 1 PvP Chaos Tech items. And these are going to be, as you're going to be able to see in, or like as you're able to see in patch notes or anywhere else, these are going to be Q Cannon, Temporal Conduit, Electromagnetic Loot, and the Thought Maker. Q Cannon is going to be a PvP chaos tech that will specialize around countering critical hits. Temporal Conduit is going to be focusing on just maximizing efficiency with the Enterprise NX01 loop, kind of targeting fighting Xindi reptiles and Xindi aquatics. Similarly to the Temporal Conduit, the electromagnetic loot is going to improve the effectiveness of engaging with the Monavin, primarily from the perspective of dealing with all the Texas class hostiles. And then lastly, the Thought Maker is going to be a PvE farming tech that is going to help out with fighting non-armada hostiles and just increase the amount of loot that you gain by killing them as well. So that's kind of it for the general chaos tech overview. We can probably go more into detail with regards to how players can use them in different situations. But yeah, there's a very, very brief general overview.
No, I think chaos tech adds a new element in the game, not just for daily play, but also think about those group events. I'm thinking specifically more so about Arena that just recently launched last month and last update, and the next one's coming up on Monday. And I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how players are now changing up their strategy, because they've had a couple weeks figuring out their own strategy with what was available. Right. And now we have this update that's going on in game right now, Q Continuum Part 1. And just seeing how these new items, these new things that are coming into the game are going to have an effect on those interactions. So I'm looking forward to just kind of seeing the feedback, from you guys about all of that. I know that we've talked a little bit about the independent archives and chaos tech. We talked about the new Q crew. Again, that is gonna be the new name in my brain. I know it's absolutely incorrect, so I'm gonna get in trouble for all of that. And then all of these things have been crafted to overlap and overlay with one another for strategy purposes. We talked a lot about choices.
Right.
Your choices with the independent archives and how like which tracks or whatnot you're going to be focusing on, and how that's going to affect your gameplay with the buffs and consolidating those loops. And then we've talked about a little bit of your choices with chaos tech. But speaking about choices, something different is happening right now in game that your very hands have touched, and
that's not a good thing.
Never a good thing.
Never a good thing.
But in this case, it is a good thing in my brain.
Okay.
So good job, Gold Star. But talk to me a little bit about the Battle Pass. What is in it?
The Battle Pass.
The Battle Pass.
The Battle Pass.
What's in it?
All right.
And what's different?
I would love to take full credit for this, but it wasn't just me. There were many hands inside of the Battle Pass.
You guys heard it. It's all him. Nobody else.
So one of the big things that everybody's going to notice is the choice tokens, right? The Battle Pass now, where you saw resources and materials as a token, where you can go and you can designate and pick which resources and materials you want.
You mean this was not an accident?
This was not an accident. This was very much intended. We really wanted to see how players liked that, right? Like, did they want the prescribed, like, I know exactly what I'm getting from the Battle Pass, and I know I'm going to get this much crystal and this much ore and this much titanium? Or did they want to be able to double down and I want only titanium for all of my choice packs? You can do that. So I'm very interested to see what the players think about that, and if that's something that we should continue doing.
Yeah.
And the other thing that is in the Battle Pass is a rare forbidden tech on the elite side.
Okay.
So by milestone 2, which should be day 1, so there should already be some people out there that has it, you should be able to get your full unlock of a rare forbidden tech for doing the first Battle Pass event. And that's a great thing, and I think it's really cool. Another thing that we're going to see with Chaos Tech is that there's a common Chaos Tech. Players have been asking for different rarities of things. I think that's really cool that we're starting to see more differences in rarities and what that can bring to the table. But yeah, the Battle Pass is definitely something that's really cool. The idea with the Battle Pass was to have a commander journey through the battle pass, right? A lot of times it's like rewards, this is what I'm getting, cool, sign me up. For this, I wanted it to flow a little bit with the fact that you're getting that rare forbidden tech by milestone 2, right? So milestone 2, you're getting a rare forbidden tech, and then next milestone coming down the line, you're going to get your slotting material, and then you're going to get some upgrade material a little bit more leading up to your tier up. So it's supposed to be sort of a flow of this materials and resources coming in, which is something I tried doing. Let me know if you hate it or if you love it.
Yeah.
And I'll get back to you on
Don't
changes
say
in
it.
the future,
No, but that's a really, really good point there. So like, definitely utilize those feedback channels, because everything that we're talking about with the battle pass right now, this is not a permanent change. This is, hey, we want to see how you guys feel about it. So we desperately want that feedback. And seeing
let us
if
know in
this
the
is,
comments below.
Yeah, here in Discord, talk with Hammy, talk with Paulie, talk with the CMs and the moderators, and let us know like how you guys are feeling on that, because this could be something that comes back in the future. If players like it, it could also not be. This is a unique month where we're trying several different things. We've talked a bit about the narrative, the Q Continuum overall. We've talked about the Q crew of officers. We've talked about the independent archives. We've talked about Chaos Tech. We've talked about the difference in the battle pass. Other couple things that are live this month. We've got a couple primes. We've got a new refit. I don't know if you want to dive into those, Doman, but why would players care about the new primes that are out and the new Vindicator refit?
So we are going to be introducing 2 new primes in this update. The first one is going to be Prime Liquid Omega Trallium Refinery, which is going to reduce the cost of the NECA raw Omega Trallium Refinery by 60% and increase liquid Omega Trallium payout by 100%. For the Prime Terran Arena claim, that one's going to increase your common Terran credits and uncommon Terran credits in the Terran Arena claim by 50%. And it's going to be found in the Galaxy Research Tree. So just for anyone engaging with the arena as events happen from one Monday to another, you're just going to be able to get like so much more value from like every single claim on a daily basis. As for the Guerrilla refit for the Vindicator, that one's going to provide 2 specific benefits. The first one is that the epic Mazriat Veil and rare beer Chip Keller, however you pronounce it, those officers are going to be added to the Vindicator officer acquisition bundle in the refinery. So from this perspective, just engaging with Vindicator is going to be more efficient for you as a player. You're just going to be able to get more rewards. And then one thing that's going to add on top of that is also that we're going to be increasing the number of roles for the Vindicator officer acquisition by 1. So yeah, just in total, this refit is all about making sure that you get the maximum out of your Vindicator whenever you use it, and the refinery itself.
Very cool. Yeah, I think you're right in the sense of there's a lot of stuff packed into this month.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, a lot of big things, and they're not just, I don't know. I feel like this month is so unique in the sense of it just tackles several quality of life things that have just we've been screaming, as a community for a while. I'm really like looking forward to interacting with the independent archives, because there are a couple of loops in there that I'm kind of ready to be done with. So just something like that is just huge for players. And then not to mention the quality of life improvements that also went live this month. I don't remember the actual names, but there's one for missions, the missions user interface. I might be getting these mixed up. There's missions user interface. Yeah. What else is there, Domen, for the quality of life improvements that have launched this month?
Yeah, so there's been a ton of quality of life stuff that we've been working on just in the background. So everything that we've been discussing about so far has been made by a content team that I've been working with. But then on the side, we also have teams that work on different features, teams that are going to be working on different improvements, polishing the game, tackling live issues. And one of those teams, that's also a team that I've been working with, amazing dudes, every single one of them. We've been working on a couple of smaller quality of life changes, and these effectively end up being, there's 4 of them. They end up being smart speed up button. This is a button that you're going to be able to use for just about any single feature that uses a speed up. So for buildings, for research, ship repair, ship construction, away teams, anything else that we have in the game, when you tap that smart speed up button, that button is going to calculate the optimal number of speed ups to be consumed for the action, and you're just going to be able to click once and be done with the entire thing. So yeah, just like a very nice quality of life tweak that ends up allowing players to just use up those speed ups in the most optimal way possible. And then one other improvement that is probably my personal favorite, it's something that I've been wanting to see in this game for a while, is the improved missions panel UI. So there's a ton of missions in this game at this point. I think I'm probably not the only one who has a massive backlog of missions that I still have to complete. And what we're doing now is we're going to rework the entire missions panel to give it a cleaner look. So now missions are going to be categorized within a couple of different categories. You're going to be able to have favorites, main story missions, which are basically the missions that you're kind of supposed to focus on the most, the critical path missions, as we call them internally. And then also Federation, Klingon, Romulan, and General. So yeah, just like a slight tweak to how things look. You're also going to be able to see that there's like drop-down menus that allow you to hide and reveal certain missions. Just some cool stuff on that front, allowing you to have a better overview of missions, to be more focused on the missions that you're working on. And yeah, just hopefully engage with missions in a better way. The third improvement is the location navigation mechanism improvement. This is a small one. This just means that whenever you tap any sort of deep linked button tied to any sort of undiscovered system, we're going to automatically show you the pop-up that pops up whenever you select a system. So it's just a matter of like saving a couple of clicks whenever you are trying to navigate the galaxy, allowing you to enter systems faster and just explore the galaxy faster as well. And lastly, we've also added support for deep linking systems in mission descriptions. This is not something that you're going to see immediately, but at least on the narrative side of things, our designers are now going to have the option to be able to deep link systems in mission descriptions, which should allow us to guide players slightly better when it comes to completing missions, or like accepting missions and trying to go and complete them. So yeah, those 4 ended up being just something on top for this update. But I think in the biggest quality of life like aspect and impact, that's probably where the players are going to be looking at the independent archives.
Yeah, I think this month, I feel like he was kind of like downplaying a lot of these quality of life improvements. You say, oh, it's just a little change here, a little visual thing here. No, we spend hours in this game. And I think things like that, even like you were talking about with the missions, just being able to, organize the missions in that way, I think is going to play a lot bigger of a role than you said it so nonchalantly, like, oh yeah, it'll look a little different. But that's huge. I know for me as a player, I actually ran into the experience, and this has happened to some folks. I know some people have probably tickets because they've done the same thing, where you hit your maximum log.
Yeah.
And then you add another one once you've hit your max. And what happens when you hit your max?
They get deleted.
They get deleted. And how do you get one back?
Got to go start over again and reclaim it, and another thing gets deleted.
Yes, yeah. You have to complete the missions, make room, and then reclaim. And if it's something that you have an issue with, you submit a ticket with customer support. But I was doing that because I didn't have a way to just kind of know where things were, what was what. And so I, like many others, I hoard my missions, and they hang out in there. And I'm like, this is one thing that for me personally is going to play a huge role. I feel like, I mentioned earlier, I felt like a lot of this month has to do with choice. I feel like a lot of this month has to do with efficiency.
it just makes for a much more fluid experience. I mean, we were doing a play test, a couple weeks back before everything launched, and I wasn't even aware that some of these new improvements were coming in just because I was so focused on the actual events and doing different things. I'm like, whoa, when did that get added? They're like, this month. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then we went over to the missions. I'm like, whoa, when did that get added? And so it was just like a bunch of things like that. I'm like, wow, that's a really, really cool thing that we're doing this month. And I'm the same as you and Domen. I'm really hopeful that players like it and it makes things more efficient and that they can go about their goals inside of Star Trek Fleet Command a little bit faster and more seamlessly.
Yeah. There's one other thing that happens every year in the month of November, other than Thanksgiving, of course, and
I shave my head again.
Or U.S. Thanksgiving. Oh, does that happen
once a year on November? That's why I'm always wearing a hat. In November I'll clean shave, but other than that, I'm very much joking.
No, just the visual of that in my mind was just.
Oh, it'd be terrifying for everyone. But I have to prep for Halloween the entire year to be as spooky as possible. Yeah. And then November, I start over and prep for next year.
I see. Yeah. No, not that item. Although now I'm glad that we know this and we've taken this step in our friendship, and I know how often you shave your head. But the anniversary of Star Trek.
6-year anniversary.
6 years. Now, this is not a milestone year like last year was. So primarily we're going to see 6-year anniversary stuff reflected in game more than anything else. But what all can we talk about with that? Because that's a few weeks away. So I know we don't want to give anything away in terms of events and such like that. But
you want to
dive into a little bit?
I'll dive into it. It'll be on the calendar. Right. People will be able to know some of this thing. So there's going to be a couple of themings like, hey, this away teams event, Q wants us to go send party invitations, right? And so there will be theming there. But then there will be anniversary specific events, right? So, we're going to be starting with some trivia. We're going to be starting with a very unique SLB that I don't think we've ever done before. So I'm excited to see how commanders sort of navigate that. And then in week 3, there's a couple of other things that we're doing. The trivia and the riddles right now are with some people in Discord to make sure that my trivia questions and riddles are parsable.
Ooh, okay.
So if they get back to me and they're like, this is a whole bunch of nothing, I'm going to have to go rewrite those. But hopefully they're fun and good. And then we're also going to be doing sort of a login calendar of sorts, and there'll be fun rewards and unique cosmetics. And hopefully there's a good smattering of things to celebrate everybody and our amazing commanders that have been part of this community for so long and has made all of this happen.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to the cosmetics and stuff this year. I don't know if players have had a chance to watch like the patch notes video or whatnot. I am particularly fond of the Haling Frequency, the 6-year anniversary Haling Frequency. I don't know if y'all have really seen it yet, but it's literally, it's got the 6-year anniversary cake, and then it's got a little Enterprise flying around it and lands on top of it, and then the cake like jiggles.
As always, the art team has outdone themselves, in my opinion.
It's too cute. It's too. I really liked last month's Haling Frequency of the Tribble, the Halloween Tribble. They've been making some real fun and cute things lately.
I agree.
Yeah, real big fan. Players can look forward to the events that you have sprinkled throughout the game this month for the 6-year anniversary. Not only the cosmetics, but different rewards and things mixed into that, which are secrets, because you don't tell somebody their birthday present before their birthday, unless you're me. I tend to do that quite often.
I do it all the time.
Yeah, I'm like,
Christmas
I get so
as well.
Yeah.
I'm way too excited to be like, wait until the day. I'm like, hey, I got you this thing.
Is there any particular thing, like either of y'all, like, hey, like this is like the item that I am most excited for?
Yeah, on the topic of a lot of content in this update, I think sometimes this could be perceived as a negative thing, but I think we've been very nicely navigating PvE versus PvP balance. We've also been quite nice at how we balanced out quality of life with actual new features and new content in this update in particular. So for me, I would actually say I'm not super excited about like any item in particular or like specific piece of content. I just want players to when the update launches, just take some time, chill out, go through the patch notes, see what's in there, and then just go in and explore. I would say start off with checking out the archives, see how it flows, see how it affects your experience. Start the path towards mastering all the loops that are currently included. Botany Bay is going to be free, so this is going to be a perfect way of you starting and just being able to finish that up and then focus on the rest. But then after that, I would say prioritize the story. Go through the missions, explore the new Continuum systems, go on the adventure with Q and Q Junior, give him a slap in the face, fight the new hostiles that we're introducing in the Continuum systems, and just see how much of a challenge they end up posing for you. But otherwise, for more, let's say, engaged players, or players who want to go deeper into systems and mechanics and strategy, check out Chaos Tech. See what it's all about, how it kind of makes you strategize and think about the game and how it fits in your game goals. And for everyone who's more oriented around PvP, check out those officers. Try them out in TC, try them out in Arena, incursions as well. Go for it. Just see what they have to offer. So yeah, just as a closing thought, I wouldn't say there's anything in particular. Like, I am biased towards independent archives, but I would still say just embrace the update, go through the story, let it sink in, and then for the next month, just hopefully you will be looking forward to seeing what's coming as a continuation of the story and an expansion of the Continuum space.
For sure. Gabe, for you, what are you most looking forward to? Is it tied to the fact that this is your first arc that you're doing? Is it tied to some of the content, or?
I mean, I'm definitely not going to give as majestic an answer as Domen just did, but I'm most excited for the independent archives. Reason being is I think Chaos Tech is awesome for all the reasons Domen said. I'm not going to go and repeat anything he said because it doesn't need repeating. I think the officers are fantastic. I think we've seen that the Battleship Strike team and the Intercept Strike team have been very strong. We've all known that the Explorer Strike team could use a little bit of love, so it's nice that we have another option. But the independent archives, I mean, years ago when I was on one of our content creator Ultimate DJ show, we talked about loops, and we were just talking back and forth, and I'm like, I think it'd be cool if there was a mastery system, kind of like a field training, where if you complete these tasks, you don't have to do the loop anymore. You're finished. And I'm not saying that this content is because of that conversation.
Your idea, stamp it.
No, absolutely not. The team worked on this, and it's an amazing thing. But I am very excited that something that we sort of just talked about in passing came to be inside of Star Trek Fleet Command, and that it happens to be the first month that I'm working on as an associate product manager. So I'm very excited about that person.
Yeah, I think you kind of said this as an underlying thing. This is a direct I don't want to say direct response, but it is a direct response to an area that players have felt tension in the game for a while. Tension's a good word.
Good. It's a great word. Fantastic.
But I think that's, like, for me, rather than any particular feature or piece of content, what I'm looking forward to most is that whole underlying thing. Like, this month feels like efficiency and player choice are going hand in hand. It feels like a lot of the things this month are directly tied to areas that players have been asking for, providing feedback for. Now, I'm not saying like this is the end all be all, like, hey, all right, we listened, this is all you get ever. No, I really feel like this is kind of, I don't want to say step one, but a continuing process. So rather than any like specific piece of content or feature, for me, it's the overarching, like, hey, like, I feel like a lot of these things are in direct response.
The overarching philosophy of how things were designed and implemented this month.
Exactly. And I wish that you guys could see a little bit more on the back end of all of that, but that's kind of why we're here. That is why we took this time here. Domen and Gabe said, hey, it would be cool to talk about this update and some of the thoughts behind the overarching goals and intent behind some of these items, talking a little bit about like how events literally weave themselves in and out of those as well, just to keep everything really streamlined. Before we head off, are there anything that we can talk about or leak or share, you can tell me no, and that's okay. We'll move on. We'll do the sign off. But Domen, is there anything that we can talk about next month, or can we just hint that players should be looking forward to?
Yeah, I of course, like, we don't want to reveal too much. I would like to repeat this next time and have us go through this content. But I think I would kind of send it all the way back to the beginning, where Gabe was mentioning how much opportunity we have to create something new and unique on top of the mystery behind Elorians and the Q Continuum. And basically, for me, what's most exciting here is just how much we're going to be expanding upon that. There's going to be new content that has never been seen in any sort of Star Trek before, that's going to try and expand, let's say, the culture of Elorians. So yeah, I think for me, it's that. I love to see us explore just the different levels of storytelling within this game. I think it can sometimes be a bit of a undervalued aspect of the game, especially after like all the players go deep into all the systems and the events and everything that we have in the ecosystem. So yeah, for me, it's this. I will say that we will be tying the current story in update 72 with Star Trek Generations a bit more. That's going to come into play. So really looking forward to players experiencing that. And of course, just like we always do, we are going to be expanding upon other pieces of content as well that we'll present once we're ready. So there's that.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to getting through this month, experiencing all it has to offer, and how next month is being built upon that as well. But I know that I've already taken up so much of your guys' time. We're literally in the middle of crunch time right now for the month, and I'm surprised that we could still echo away for as long. Because if you guys don't know, live ops, they're like round the clock during their months entirely. And so thank you for taking the time to come to the office and do this. Doman, thank you for staying up super late in order to.
Yeah, Doman's the real hero here.
Y'all are both the heroes. I'm just here asking the questions, and y'all are actually doing the fun parts. But no, thank you guys so much for joining us. And I'm really hoping that we can do maybe another one of these next month and talk through the content that's going on. So you guys keep your eyes peeled for those things. But other than that, I don't have anything else other than to do the usual way that we love to end these things and sign off the old way. Do you remember how it goes?
Nope.
Well, I'll give it to you real easy. It goes like this.
Oh, well, yeah. I thought you meant like a specific phrase that I used to say or something like that.
Nope. Guys, he's out of practice. I'm out of
practice.
No. Thank you guys for joining us today. And to all of our folks out there who've been tuned in, we just want to say, live long and prosper, Commanders.